All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will get started for yet another weekly football media luncheon. My name is Habtam Keleta, Sports Information Director of UAPB, and we will get started. I'd like to introduce our lineup today, of course, as usual, head coach Monte Coleman, and we've also got wide receiver Robert Sims III out of Norcross, Georgia, right here, and we've got free safety Jamal Odom on the right side from Decatur, Georgia. Glad to have you all along here. All right, Coach, if we can get started, if you can give us a recap. If you guys didn't know, we had a game against Alabama A&M on Saturday. We played them in the SWAC game of the week, and it was homecoming for them as well. So without further ado, I will let Coach Coleman dive into this past weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Disappointing day for us. We marched down to Alabama A&M down in Huntsville last weekend, hoping to come out with a better success that we had. It's like I tell our team, and if you look at the game, it wasn't as much as what they did as what we didn't do or we should have done that kind of hindered us from winning that football game. We shot ourselves in the foot on several occasions in the first half, staying behind the ball, or behind the chains, I should say, with long yardage, either with a penalty here, a penalty there, or something. Didn't start off for us very well. The third play of the game, of course, we throw an interception for a touchdown, and that kind of started to spiral down. But the one thing that I'm extremely optimistic with, the guys never stopped playing. The confidence was still there. They felt like we could win that football game. The only thing we didn't do, we didn't make the plays when we had the opportunities to make plays. And that's what we got to build on. Two phases. We've got to, on defense, we've got to play just a little bit more aggressive. We've got to tackle better. And on the offensive side of the ball, we've got to protect the football. We can't turn the football over. Every team that we played thus far, regardless of what their records are, is going to be a tough opponent. It's going to be hostile. In our home stadium, it's going to be hostile in our away stadiums. And it was definitely hostile there in Alabama A&M. It was their homecoming. They were in second place on the East. We're in second place on the West. So both teams was 1-0 in the SWAC, and they just made more plays. Our guys played extremely hard. I was very proud of them for playing as hard as they did. We did make some plays. The two gentlemen next to me, continually week in and week out make plays. Mr. Odom had a big day. He got interceptions, came up, made several tackles. Mr. Sims, who's a true freshman, he played well and have played for the last few games, and he'll continue to do so. Right now, after Sunday, of course, our routine is to put this game behind us, and everything that we're doing today from here on out is in preparation for Mississippi Valley, which is a tough football team. They'll come in with blood in their eyes, and it's going to be a game that we've got to win, and we will start that preparation. We were up in the weight room at 6 this morning talking with the strength conditioning coach. The attitude of the players was great. The work ethic of the players was great, and I feel very, very good about being at home, being off the road, back in front of our Golden Lion fans.
All right, Coach. Do you think the four-game road trip took a toll on the players in this game? Did it show?
I don't think necessarily. I made a comment last week about the four-game. I don't think that was the issue. I think one of the issues, and I don't know this for a fact, but this was the first 2 o'clock game that we played. All the other games started at 6 or later, and this was the first 2 o'clock. So when we got up on Saturday morning, it was time to play. So it may have played a little bit into it. I know from a psychological standpoint, for me, without having a scoreboard, that was kind of a twist. Not being able to look up at the clock and see how much time you've got left in the game or in a quarter or whatever the case was. That kind of threw a twist and made it kind of an awkward feeling in that particular ball game. So I don't think the 4-game road trip had that much. We put them to bed early Friday evening. We We had a good trip coming up, non-eventful trip coming up to Alabama, to Huntsville. So I don't think the road trips paid that much of a difference.
Perfect, thank you. All right, and if you could preview a little bit about Mississippi Valley's team for the upcoming game Saturday, back at home, at the comfort of our home.
Mississippi Valley at this point have not won a football game. They've played some very good football teams. The one thing that sticks out the most in SWAC standing, they have the #1 passed offense. In SWAC standing, they have the #1 pass defense stats. And all the other stats, they're not very good, but they're very, very aggressive. They move around very well on defense. They have playmakers. They do play 2 quarterbacks. They've got 2 freshman quarterbacks, one right-handed, one left-handed. They will play both of those guys. And they throw the football a lot. They'll line up in 3 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers. They will try to run the football, but their forte right now on offense is throwing the football. And on defense, like I said, they're going to fly around. They're known for having an aggressive defense, and this year is no different. So I'm not worried about what they do. It's like I say every week, it's what we do, and I think we're putting together a good game plan.
Thank you so much, Coach Coleman. All right, at this moment, we will take questions from the media for either one of these gentlemen.
O.C. Brown, the Palmer Commercial. How you doing, Coach?
Sure.
All right. I know each week you say you want to win the turnover battle. They won it this week 2-1. Mr. Odom, you had an interception, I believe, so for the 1 turnover for you guys. But the first pick for them was a pick 6 to kind of set you guys back. Could you just talk about how that altered the game plan all the way, just in general?
That's a good question, though. Basically, it's like you said, that's one thing that we try to pride ourselves on, and that's winning the giveaway takeaway. And unfortunately for us, the last few weeks, we haven't won that category. This particular game against A&M, the first turnover is an interception for a touchdown. That's huge. The percentage of you winning a game after throwing interceptions for touchdowns goes down tremendously. Now, you can still do it, and we try to do it. Odom had a great interception, which tied us back up. Then we had a fumble on a punt return, and one that wasn't called. I think that's the importance of having instant replay in the SWAC. Dave White intercepts the ball on their sidelines. It's clear on film that he intercepted the ball. He's in bounds. Of course, from a visual, the official didn't see it that way, and we lose that one. At least we would have been tied 2-2 as far as turnovers. But the thing that we're practicing, we're going to be emphasizing the most over this next week and throughout the rest of the season is ball security. So we've got to start winning. The teams that are leading the divisions, East and West, they're like +10 and +11 in giveaway takeaways. And we've got to get closer to that mark.
Okay. Now, one of the biggest turning points in the game had to be the goal line, the stop they got on 4th and 2, and then it came down. I think they forced a punt. You guys forced a punt, and they fumbled on. You guys fumbled on the return. They came back and scored to make it 17-0. Could you just talk about how big that change was right there?
Yeah, that's huge. I took a chance, which I will take some chances. I got all the confidence in the world in our offense and the offensive coaching staff, so I took a chance. We were in field goal range, debated, grappled with either kicking or not kicking. I think at that time we were down, 10-0? So I took a chance on that last week. We were successful on those 4th downs. Just so happened this one we didn't make it. So we turned the ball over, and then to them on downs. And then we come back, we hold them on defense, and we force a punt. And we're going to have pretty good field position, had a decent return. Unfortunately for us, the ball is stripped from our return man's hands, and that gave them the ability to go down and make it now 17-0.
Okay. Now, for Mr. Odom, could you just talk about, I think he threw for 291 passing yards but no touchdowns. They got their touchdowns on the ground. Do you think the pass opened up those 2 big touchdown runs for them, or how would you look at it?
Nah, not really. I don't really feel like the pass really was. I feel like we played the pass pretty well, and We just had a few missed tackles on the touchdown runs that they did get.
Okay. And then for Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims, being a freshman, you made a big catch and, been inserting yourself in the offense the past couple of weeks. Could you just talk about continue to be a factor on the offense going forward?
Going forward, more than likely, more making plays, but it's also coming in with practicing hard, mostly, doing what I need to do for the team and also for myself to better myself and help my team do what we have to do.
Now, Coach, after getting down 17-0, you came back, were able to fight to get the score to 20-14 to make it a one-possession game there. Could you just talk about the resiliency, like you said, from last week that you seen there?
That's the one thing that I'm the happiest with. The guys aren't giving up. I mean, they're continuing to fight, regardless of what the score says on the scoreboard. Well, couldn't see the scoreboard, so I don't know what it was.
Right.
But they're going to play hard. They're led by Odom. They're led by even a freshman who's coming in, who's playing for us, Mr. Sims, and these guys are working hard. Like I said, this morning, 6 a.m. After being off yesterday, they came in, put them in the weight room, and the enthusiasm, work ethic in the weight room was extremely well. Now we've got to carry that over to practice today, tomorrow, and polish up on Thursday. I don't think we're ever out until the last second clicks off the clock. We pride ourselves on working for 60 minutes per game. And I think it was obvious. We just didn't make plays when we absolutely had to, and that was kind of the tale of the tape.
Okay. Now going forward, Coach, Mississippi Valley, they came in here, got a big win last year. I think they had a couple quarterbacks. They played a two-quarterback system last year like they're doing this year. Could you just talk about being able to play them again at home this year and just trying to – I think they have a freshman quarterback, two freshman quarterbacks,
Yes.
just, trying to building off what you know from them, and Coach Comegy, how he likes to run his offense.
Coach Comegy is a very smart, very good coach. I'm sure his coaching staff, they complement each other. They do have two freshman quarterbacks at this time. They've got one other junior college quarterback who played some in the Charleston game late, but they primarily used the two freshmen. The thing to just comment on your question, we're not the same team as we were last year, and I mean it as a compliment to our football team. They came in last year and they beat us. They're not the same football team. The two freshmen, even though they're very productive at quarterback, they're not quite as good as the guys that they had. The two quarterbacks that they had playing for them last year, both transferred to other schools during the off season, and therefore you got the two freshmen. So we're not the same football team right now. So it's going to be a good battle between us and Valley.
Okay. Now, in their only SWAC game, they played 3 FBS opponents, I believe. So, in their only SWAC game, they did put up 300 total yards of offense. And, I mean, that gives you guys a certain amount of respect for them coming in.
Absolutely.
And so, could you just talk about just the game plan going forward and just the respect that you have for them coming into the game?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Coach Comegy. Pretty much everywhere he's been, he's won. He's won championships in other divisions and other conferences and stuff. A lot of respect for him in his coaching ability. On my press conference yesterday, one of the questions was, can they sneak up on us and beat us? And of course, the answer to that question, no, they can't sneak up. We're not taking them lightly. We know how good they are. As far as the number of yards that they put up offensively, primarily they are a passing football team. If you look at their run yards per game, they're not very effective running the football. So the thing that we've got to do is make them one-dimensional. We've got to take the pass away and force them to run the football. And Coach Carrillo and the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball are right now working on that game plan to do just that, to make them one-dimensional and force them to run the football. We know they can throw the football very well, but the thing that we've got to do is take that away.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, questions from the media? Anybody else? All right, we'll take questions from the audience at this moment, please.
Hello, players. How y'all doing? Enjoyed the game Saturday. Odom, I'm happening to meet your mother, and we had a nice crowd down there, you all. And the only thing that I really regretted is that that track field kept y'all so far away that y'all couldn't hear me.
I heard you, man. I know your voice.
Okay, good. Coach, I think so. Anyway, Coach, you in the Jackson State game, when Brandon Duncan wasn't performing up to your expectations, you put Earl Patterson in, number 16. You didn't do that last week. What was your reasoning behind that?
We want to be a one quarterback team. If we absolutely had to change quarterbacks, then we will. If we think the quarterback is pretty much the not having a very good day. Brandon was having kind of a rough day, but there were other things that was going on around Brandon that kind of caused Brandon to have a rough day. So that's the reason why we didn't change him out this week. Just going back watching the film and not letting the cat out of the bag, we have made some changes on the offensive side of the ball. There'll be some players that played last week that may not play this week. And I won't say what positions, but there may be some changes because we've got to get better. And the thing that we don't really criticize the guys, of course, if you continue to make mistake after mistake, then we've got to look at that and evaluate it. But if we don't get the effort, we've got to have effort because that's something you can't coach. That's something that's down in your heart as a player. And if we're not getting the effort, then that's when we look to take players out. So there will be some changes this week. And but Brandon, he had a rough day. He did have a rough day, but it didn't give us the ability to pull him out at that particular time.
Now, Coach, I know every coach's philosophy is to keep the quarterback in the pocket.
Yes.
But if the receivers are covered and the line is holding, I don't know how long you expect the lineman to hold their blocks, maybe 3 seconds. If they have to hold them 5 seconds, it's going to usually let the defensive lineman get in there.
Yes.
So what is your philosophy on Brandon or any quarterback breaking out of the pocket for a run?
We look at Brandon as a dual threat quarterback. And when I say that, I mean he has the ability to throw. He can throw almost any ball that needs to be thrown, from an out to a post to a comeback. He can do all of that. And the second part being that dual is he has the ability to run with it. Now, Lee Earl is a little more
aggressive.
Well, a little more athletic when it comes to running the football. And that's the reason why we did change him out week before last against Jackson. So there's a possibility you may see a little more Lee Earl in this particular ball game.
Okay. Now, Coach, when I was down at Jackson State, that Sunday morning, I got the newspaper to find out what they were saying about us.
Yes.
And in the coach's interview, even though he lost the game, he said that it was because of the mistakes they made, that he used the term that your offense is vanilla, as if to say he can predict what you're going to do. And I said I wanted to talk to you about that to get your perspective on that, because I know better than that.
If he can predict it, he should be somewhere making money. If he can tell the future. I don't think we're vanilla. We change our game plan every week, so depending on what a defense gives you is what we're going to do. So I don't think we're predictable as far as who we're going to throw to or who we're not going to throw to. And if Coach Hughes said that we're vanilla and we beat them, what does that make them?
Water. One more comment. I'll be through. This is not a question. This is a comment.
Okay.
But during the game last week, this is for the naysayers, you all. Too many people talk about our stadium, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. Well, when I went down to that stadium, they have a big, beautiful stadium
Yes.
with a gravel parking lot. And I happen to know that when our stadium was built in 2000, which was at that time state of the art, because I was talking to Lonzo Hardy, and he told me how we were complimented when the networks come in, they just plug in. They don't have to run a bunch of cable and stuff. And I remember us touting that back at the time. And at one time when that stadium was being built, we were about to have a gravel parking lot. But Tommy May, who's former CEO of Simmons Bank, stepped in and said, no, we want pavement. And as a result of that, we have one of the more beautiful stadiums in the whole SWAC. And I just want us as fans to appreciate what we have and stop talking about what we don't have.
We got a beautiful stadium. I agree with you on that one, Bob.
One more question here, I forgot, Coach.
Okay.
I noticed that Keyshawn Williams wasn't in the box score. I don't know.
Big part of the success for you guys and balance sheet out this year. Can you just talk about him being out? Was it an injury?
Yes. He was held out because of an injury. He'll play this week, but he had a hip pointer that he sustained in the Jackson State game, and wasn't up to 100% playing this past week. So his coach, Coach Sane, held him out.
Any more questions from the audience? Mr. Nichols, Cam.
I don't need a mic, I can talk loud enough. I'm comfortable. We had to haul a long way, to our neighbor. Coach, I'd like to say, the defensive team is looking better than last year, but you are shooting yourself in the foot when you're behind the 8 ball. And the only question I have, how many more homecoming we gonna play?
Actually, that's the only one that I know of.
Is that the only one this year?
Yes, sir, that I know of. Now, there could be some others out there. Mr. Nichols, I don't look that far in advance at the schedule. It's one game at a time, literally, for me. So I know we've got Mississippi Valley. It's not a homecoming for us. And then the next week against Central, of course, we'll play. But on the road, I'm not sure if any others are homecomings.
All right, I just want to know one thing.
Yes, sir.
Who would win between a jump ball between Sims III and Jamal Odom? Who wins in practice? You first.
Most definitely, I would like to say myself, really, because it's me. And
We did see your highlight a couple weeks back on Twitter, but he tried to trump you this past weekend. Jamal, what do you think?
I mean, to be 100% honest, I look at him like little bro, so he ain't getting it. We from around the same area, he know he ain't getting that. It's over.
Both Georgia products. You'll have to watch for that on the field next
They
time.
do
for
have
sure.
great competition in practice, and it's kind of a 50-50 split at this time.
Wonderful, wonderful. If y'all aren't aware, this is the gentleman who ran me over, introduced me to UAPB on the first day of my job, so I appreciate that. All right, if we don't have any more questions, we'd just like to thank everybody for coming today. We'd like to thank Aramark for sponsoring us, and thank you for all our visitors.
Can I just make
Yes,
one
sir.
other-
Absolutely.
We definitely are heartbroken over the loss against A&M. But, one of the things I told the team after the game is we still got a lot of football left. We hadn't played one West team, and there's a lot of football left. We're 1-1 in the SWAC. We've got a SWAC game this week, which is an East opponent. And then after homecoming, we've got a bye week, and then we start playing teams on the West. There is a lot of parity in the league. The thing that we've got to do is and get rid of the injury bug. We lost our starting free safety this past week. Odom plays strong, and Blake Connor plays free. He broke his wrist this week. We lost the week before our starting linebacker. So I'm just hoping and praying that we don't get in that injury bug that could hurt us. But the guys behind them, it's an opportunity for them to come in and play, and that's what they're doing. It's next man up. And by no means are we going to lay down or not practice hard or not play hard. We will continue this season. We're 1-1 with a lot of football left, and we're going to play hard week in and week out. I can assure you of that. We do have some coaches in the audience. I want to thank them for being here. And let's go Lions.
All right, we appreciate you, Coach Coleman, and thanks to these players. Thank you to everybody who made it today. And we just want to conclude the coaches' luncheon. Let's eat.